What if somebody decided to make a horror film that included elements of every single horror film ever made? Probably be a big mess, wouldn't it? The Gate, tonight's featured flick on Monstervision, hosted by my own self, Joe Bob Briggs, who will explain to you each and every homage to other horror films in the course of this evening. We got your zombies, we got your demons, we got your backyard devil worship, we got your gratuitous porn star cameos. You already blew the whole evening watching the playoffs. You might as well hang around another couple hours, right? It's not like you're going to read Dostoevsky or something.
See Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs next on TNT.
Well, I got my application in the mail for the National Gay and Lesbian MasterCard. Help, I'm a lesbian trapped in a man's body. Anyway, happy Mother's Day, and I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and to celebrate this special holiday, we've got The Gate, about a couple of tykes who accidentally open a door to hell when their parents go out of town. I gotta start staying sober more days of the week, you know, because what kind of mailing lists are they selling these days? It starts out here. The first National Gay and Lesbian MasterCard program is a fantastic opportunity to show the power and solidarity of our community and provide financial support to incredible organizations that work for us all. And it practically guarantees me that I'll get one if I send in the application. It'd almost be worth it just to see what'd happen if I asked for a pitcher of beer at the White Elephant Saloon in Fort Worth, slapped down my National Gay and Lesbian MasterCard to pay for it. You know, the part I don't understand, though, is the and part. Shouldn't it be either a gay card or a lesbian card? You know, I'm always amazed when people link gays and lesbians together, because as far as I can tell, they don't even particularly like one another, you know? Because after all, lesbians like women. They want to be with women. They only want to be with women. So why would they suddenly say, you know what, I think tonight I'll hang around with some men who are surrounded by other men? It doesn't really work that way, does it? The uniform is different, you know? The language is different. The jokes are different. Lesbians, for one thing, they're a whole lot more serious about being lesbians than gays are about being gays, because lesbian bar, woo, those are like dark, mysterious. You know, gay bars, loud and festive, right? All right, I'm making up a bunch of stereotypes, I guess, but at least when I get gay mail accusing me of making up gay stereotypes, they generally have 4 or 5 good jokes in the letter, you know? When you get a letter from an angry lesbian, your first thought is, I wonder if this woman owns any firearms, you know? Anyhow, my only point is that a National Gay and Lesbian MasterCard only makes sense to people who never hang around with any lesbians or gays. So, but shoot, I'll take one, you know, because the last guy that offered me a credit card was standing down on Ackerd Street in downtown Dallas with a suitcase full of gold watches. So, anyhow, it is Mother's Day, so it's time for The Gate, where the monsters are about 1 foot high, have skin like silly putty, and arms like a dead lizard. Unfortunately, their mama is on her way to your backyard while your parents are spending the weekend in Oshkosh, and their mama is about 27 feet high and has skin like volcanic lava and arms like a giant weed eater. So this is the old story about 2 kids digging up a meteor in the backyard and accidentally mumbling some heavy metal rock music lyrics into the hole and summoning up the devil. But I don't want to say too much, so we'll just do those drive-in totals and get her rolling. We have no breasts, jailbait Valley Girl actresses, illegal flesh, 4 dead bodies, 1 dead stinky dog, 3 quarts blood, giant moth attack, child actor levitation, eye socket gouging with goo, exploding phone, eyeball in the hand, gratuitous chainsaw, lightning foo, 2 stars. Check it out and we'll be here to see you through. All right, there. I did a whole segment talking about homosexuals without ever using the TNT forbidden word, all right? Hey, you know what? We want to give you some free junk we have laying around here. Do you realize just what links people will go to get free junk? Find out by checking out the Monstervision website. We have these weird contests like Find That Flick, the ever-popular caption contest where you try to make the 6-headed jury laugh, and there's the Playmate of the Week, setting new standards in what is considered beautiful. And then, scariest of all, we have viewer mail from the truly deranged. So go to tnt.turner.com/Monstervision and try to realize every Webster's dream to act like a bigger idiot than yours truly, Joe Bob Briggs. There could be some free junk in it for you to clutter up your dresser drawer until it's time to move again. You have to throw it all out.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and The Gate on TNT.
Okay, this is slow as Christmas, isn't it? But it still looks fairly promising because the moths are still alive, which is kind of suspicious. There's a story about a dead workman buried in a wall somewhere, which could lead somewhere. Did you know this movie gave the infamous Ishtar a run for its money the week it opened? It came within about 100 grand of beating out Ishtar as the #1 box office flick that week. The little kid who plays Glenn is Stephen Dorff. He's all grown up now, dates supermodels and stuff. Last thing he did was that Wesley Snipes movie, Blade, where he played a vampire. And also featuring Tracy Lords, who was doing porno videos at about the same time Stephen Dorff was making this movie, and at about the same age. So, but The Gate was his feature debut. After this, he did a bunch of TV colon flicks. You know what a TV colon flick is? Quiet Victory colon, the Charlie Wiedemeyer story. You know, A Son's Promise colon, the Diane Gallagher story. You know, Do You Know the Muffin Man colon, the Joe Bob Briggs story. You know, anyhow, after the colon flicks, Dorff got a TV show called What a Dummy, about a ventriloquist dummy that's alive. You know, you've seen it before, but not as a wacky primetime comedy, you haven't. And then when he was 20, he kind of broke out by playing Stuart Sutcliffe in that movie Backbeat. Stuart Sutcliffe was the Beatle who quit the group for a German babe, and then he died of a brain hemorrhage. So after that, Stephen Dorff did a couple of movies with guys like Jack Nicholson and Harvey Keitel that nobody went to see. And then he made Blade. So you're all caught up on Stephen Dorff. Let's get back to the flick. I always think about that guy, Stuart Sutcliffe, you know, because on the one hand, what a loser. He quit the Beatles, right? On the other hand, his brain exploded, so he didn't live to feel like a loser, you know? On the other hand, if his brain exploded while he was still in the Beatles, he would be immortal, like Bruce Lee, right? On the other hand, he was the only Beatle who was getting babes when the others were still geeks, so he died happy. So you got to balance it out in a cost-benefit ratio manner, you know, because good sex, no brain, you know? Sometimes those go together, though.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and The Gate on TNT.
So I think this kid Glenn is supposed to be like the E.T. kid, because he's real curious when lightning strikes his treehouse and he goes out in the backyard and there's steam everywhere. You know how in Steven Spielberg there's always steam everywhere? There's not any streets or yards or woods or anything that don't have this steam in them, like a nuke plant just blew up and it's seeping up out of the ground. You know, everybody should know that if you wake up and it looks like freeway smog at 6 a.m., stay in bed. Don't walk through that steam. Don't breathe that steam. It's seeping into your pores and infecting your soul with dead Indians and stuff. We know this from Poltergeist, right? So, okay, back to the flick. More steam. You notice how there's no demons, though? There's like, everybody who went to this movie in 1987, they already knew exactly what the demons looked like because they put the best special effect in the whole movie in the trailer, and it ran on TV like 37 times a day. And this was so they could make you sit around waiting on the demons while we listened to all this yard monster subplot about Terry's dead mother and Glenn's dead doggy and yippee. He asked me if I'm happy about this part of the movie.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and The Gate on TNT.
Well, the moths and the steam are getting a little old, don't you think? And the Ozzy Osbourne lyrics don't make a whole lot of sense, because if the heavy metal band was trying to warn people about the gate, why do they give you the words that open the gate? But to get the words that close the gate, you have to play the record backwards? A guy named Michael Nankin wrote this story. His big claim to fame was Midnight Madness in 1980, which was billed as the first PG-rated Disney movie. But you've heard of those artistes who take their names off the credits, you know? You ruined my movie. I don't want to be associated with this pile of crapola. Take my name off that movie. Well, in the case of Midnight Madness, his name stayed on, but the whole Disney studio took its name off. You know, so it said, released by nobody. So Michael Nankin also gave Paula Abdul her big break in a short flick called Junior High School. And then there's our director, Tibor Takas, Canadian guy who's never really hit the big time, although I did like his flick Viper with B-movie legend Lorenzo Lamas. Also does gigs on TV shows like The Outer Limits and whatever the latest Gene Roddenberry thing is. If this door to hell doesn't open soon, though, I'm going to kick some hiney around here. Okay, let's go. Where is Paula Abdul these days, speaking of her? Didn't she used to go wherever Janet Jackson and Madonna went, and then she made some speech about anorexia or bulimia or Fat Anonymous or something? Was she too fat or too skinny? Really? Was she starving or barfing? I don't remember. And then Nada, you know, she was just gone. Did she marry a Japanese blacksmith or something, or with a millionaire record producer? Of course, come to think of it, I don't see Janet Jackson or Madonna that much anymore out in public, because that's okay, because they're both mad at me, because I never call them back.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and The Gate on TNT.
Finally! What are we, an hour into this thing? Now we're getting into some serious midget demon food. But there's just way too much plot getting in the way of the story here. It's too many characters, too many books, too many evil rock records, too many ghost stories and demonic telephones, and none of it makes a lick of sense as to telling us how the demons actually show up. But thank God they did show up. And anyhow, that last segment featured my favorite actress in the flick, not Krista Denton, who plays Al, although I like her a lot in this movie. But you know those two Molly Ringwald clones, the Lee sisters? Well, the one playing Linda Lee is Jennifer Irwin, but look closely. It's Missy Warner. Right, guys? Did you notice? Last thing I saw her in was Big Bust Casting Call, but they didn't give her a lot to do in that one. She did a more mainstream one called Lesbians in Tight Shorts, but I'm not into the girl pictures. But Dr. Hooters, Ma'am's the Word, raunchy porno picture show. I'm sure you all have your favorite Missy Warner flick, but here she is before she sprang those babies out of the chute, you know, at the beginning of her career. And that gal has two enormous talents, doesn't she? All right, let's get back to it. The Gate. Does this movie remind anybody else of Poltergeist? Yeah, because they got the suburban thing, the hole in the backyard, something living in the walls. But the parents in this movie are on vacation, so major difference. Plus, no midget psychic. See, in Poltergeist, the demons were huge and the psychic was a midget. In this movie, the demons are midgets, so that's how they get around that old copyright infringement problem. See, there's a Beverly Hills lawyer named Stu, and he makes all those script changes for them. Are you still listening to me?
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and The Gate on TNT.
I thought for sure that kid Terry was going to lose his leg inside the hellhole, because wasn't he looking at a picture earlier in the movie of a guy with his leg cut off at the knee? Foreshadowing, right? They set us up. Well, what the heck? The logic's been flushed down the toilet and the porn actress is gone, so I think this might be a good time for Joe Bob's Jailbreak, where we read a little mail from our incarcerated viewers, and to help us out is the always stylish Rusty, the TNT mail girl. Welcome, Rusty.
Before I forget, I want to say Happy Mother's Day to my mom.
Your mom? Your mom watches this show?
Of course.
What about your dad? It's more of a male show.
Every Saturday. In fact, Daddy says he'd like to meet you sometime.
Your daddy would like to meet me? What does your daddy do?
He's a retired police officer.
Oh, great. What are your parents' names?
Al and Rita.
Al and Rita. Al and Rita, how you doing there? Glad to meet you. Listen, you did some fine genetics work here with your daughter. You're to be commended on that, but I'm sure you know that already.
That's sweet, I think.
Well, sometimes those X and Y chromosomes don't line up so good, you know, but you seem to have them all balanced and aligned and oiled up pretty decently.
And you're thanking my parents for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not back-breaking work, but you have to be into it at the time you're doing it, and you at least have to be concentrating, you know?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, it can be back-breaking, but you have to hire a dominatrix for that, and it gets expensive. We probably just shouldn't go.
Okay, did I mention that my father carries a badge?
Well, yes, you did, but I thought you also said he was retired. But that wouldn't account for that.
Here's a letter. It's from Larry Lopez at Ironwood State Prison.
They issue those things
Blythe,
for life.
California.
All right, Larry Lopez, who I'll probably be joining soon at Blythe State Prison. Dear Joe Bob Briggs, me and my cellie here at Ironwood State Prison watch your show every week, and we especially enjoyed Friday the 13th, Part 3. It really brought back memories. We hope you could read our letter on the air because we're a faithful captive audience, and we implore every other captive in the untitled states to tune in to Joe Bob Briggs every Saturday night. We must not forget his lovely mail girl. Also, we would like to request if you would put on the air the movie Evil Dead Part 2. for we feel that you and your movies help with our rehabilitation. See, they put that in there in case the warden is watching. So keep up the good work, and hope Monstervision stays on for a long time, and thank you for reading our letter, So Long from the California Desert. You're not big on spelling at Ironwood State Prison. Larry Lopez, number H90767, Ironwood State Prison, Blythe, California. What does it mean Friday the 13th, Part 3 brought back memories?
You're asking me?
Well, you brought the letter out, so I thought
Well, I don't know.
Larry, you and your cellie aren't mass murderers, are you? You aren't like identifying with these. Not that it matters, as long as you're not drunks. That's the only thing TNT can't abide. No drunks allowed here. Okay, we've covered Ironwood here before, but to recap, 4,300 male inmates. They all live off Interstate 10 there in Blythe, California, where they focus on rehabilitation and good work ethics. Easy to focus on work ethics when you're in prison. The inmates can shorten their sentences by working and taking classes. They have what they call an arts and correction program, which I guess includes watching Monstervision. So good program. We endorse it. Thanks for your letter, Larry. We love a captive audience. Free your mind, and your butt will follow. And you know, Rusty, I was just thinking, your parents probably didn't even see this, did they? Because it's kind of late for them to be up, isn't it?
They taped the show.
Yeah? And what kind of cigars does your daddy like? Because,
he doesn't smoke.
Yeah, well, okay. Your dad probably sent some of these guys to Ironwood, didn't he? He's probably responsible for this. But I love that program they have, Arts and Correction. Okay, today, men, we will be watching Swan Lake, and then we will discuss how to fight that impulse to beat people over the head with a tire iron. Notice that the swan dies of natural causes. What is that? Arts and Correction.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and The Gate on TNT.
Well, they kind of went from demons to zombies, didn't they? Which I don't even think you can do according to the universal rules of horror films. You either do demons or you do zombies, but you don't do both in the same movie. Of course, they had to do that for their money shot. That famous shot where the zombie falls on the floor and he turns into a dozen little creepy demons. See, that's the one they played over and over and over in the trailer. But they just kind of threw every single horror movie plot into this one screenplay, didn't they? They even had a little demon disco going on there for a minute. That was like the Solid Gold Dancers introducing the night's headliner. But I'm missing the reason why the kid thinks his toy rocket is his silver bullet. But what the heck? I'll go with it at this point. Okay, thrilling conclusion of The Gate. Roll it. And I guess I didn't put Barbie doll foo in the drive-in totals. When you're being bitten by a rabid seventh grader who's been possessed by the devil, don't even think about using that shotgun. Gore him with the old Barbie.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and The Gate on TNT.
Oh, phooey, I hate those endings where they bring everybody back and go, well, what do you know, they're not dead after all. Yippee, you know? But shouldn't one of the people who walked out of the closet at the end been that dead construction worker, alive and well, like the kids and the dog? Maybe there's some kind of statute of limitations on being brought back to life after being sucked into the walls by evil gremlins. I'm not familiar with these technicalities. Or am I going to get a bunch of letters now? Hey, Joe Bob, you moron, that zombie is just a figment of the kid's imagination based on Terry's story, brought to life by those demons. So I've said it for you, okay? Put your pencils down, all right? Okay, next week there's no Monstervision. I'm sorry to say, because Ted wants to keep the whole night open in case there's NBA playoffs. And this week they only gave me one movie, so kind of a disturbing trend going on around here. But in 2 weeks, we will be back with the wacky Sandra Bullock comedy, Love Potion #9, and my favorite Wes Craven Haitian voodoo flick, The Serpent and the Rainbow. And they do go together, kinda. You'll see. And that's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that when you're having a bad day and it seems like people are trying to tick you off, remember, it takes 42 muscles to frown and only 4 to pull the trigger of a decent sniper rifle. Did you guys hear the one about the bar owners that have a little dog? And all the patrons are pretty used to having this dog around, so they're pretty upset when the dog dies. And they try to decide what they can do to remember the little dog. The decision is made to cut off his tail and stick it up behind the bar to remind everybody of the little dog's wagging tail. So the little dog goes up to heaven, and he's about to run through the pearly gates, and he's stopped by St. Peter. And St. Peter asks the little dog where he's going. The little dog says, well, I've been a good dog, so I'm going into heaven where I belong. And St. Peter says, well, heaven is a place of perfection. You can't come into heaven without a tail. Where's your tail? The little dog explains what happened back on earth, and St. Peter tells the little dog to go back down to earth and get his tail. So the little dog says, well, it's the middle of the night on earth, but St. Peter says he won't change his mind. So the little dog goes back down to earth, and he scratches on the door of the bar until the bartender who lives upstairs comes down. And the bartender says, my goodness, it's the spirit of the little dog. What can I do for you? And the dog says that he's not allowed into heaven without his tail, and he needs it back. And the bartender says, I'd really like to help you, but my liquor license doesn't allow me to retail spirits after hours. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. All right, they're having a funeral for this old woman. After the service, the pallbearers are carrying the casket to the hearse, and they accidentally bump into a wall. There's a faint moan from inside the casket, so they open the lid, and the woman is alive. So they take her out, she cries, she hugs her husband, she goes back home with her husband. They live together for 10 more years. Finally, she dies. They have another funeral. Pallbearers carry her out to the hearse. Husband says, watch out for the dang wall.
Stay tuned for more Joe Bob Briggs on Joe Bob's Last Call. Coming up next on TNT.